In today's video, I will be sharing my version of a haul and then decorating my living room for fall. Now, most YouTube channels that have decorating show you their haul. Talking about is haul the noun, all the products purchased by someone during a particular episode of shopping. I'm not going to use the noun. I'm going to use haul as a verb, which means to move or take something and put it somewhere else. So here is my haul, the noun. Yeah, this is what I bought. A box of white candles and a box of off-white candles. So not much of a haul, you're thinking. Well, my version of a haul is moving things I already have. So I hauled or pulled together items that make me feel like fall, starting with family pieces. Now, these were my grandmother's dishes that she received when she married in 1926. The pattern is named Flaxman by Wedgwood, and it was awarded its U.S. patent in 1924. So it was new when she married. Now the colors in the overflowing basket feel like fall to me, and the little checkered detail reminds me of the Mackenzie Child's courtly check pattern. Now I like to change the decor in my china cabinet seasonally, and I thought this would be fun to work with. I'm also pulling out this old brass tray that been old since I was a child, some brass candlesticks, all family pieces, as are these copper pieces from my mother. Here's an old clock and a favorite Renoir print with warm colors, a hand-painted Italian vase, a brass tray I received as a wedding present, a boy with a bunny, a hand-painted plate with waterfowl that I found at the Salvation Army store. Finally, I have a use for it. I have a thrift store white pumpkin that probably lost its lid. A pair of Mackenzie Child's owls that I found at Goodwill for $3.99. One of my favorite finds. A lot of old books from family and that I've purchased. And a pair of copper mules. Now, never buy these little copper mugs new. I see them all the time at thrift stores. They're perfect for when you want to make a little small arrangement or give someone a bouquet. And I have a lot more thrifted trays. I think those come in very handy. Now, whenever I am preparing any seasonal decorating videos, I research to see what other YouTube channels are doing. I want to make sure I'm adding something to the conversation. Since I don't spend much time shopping at craft stores or Target or HomeSense or those other ubiquitous stores, I feel like my take is always a little bit different. What I will say is, just because you spend a lot of money, that doesn't mean you get a high-end designer look that some channels are promising. Frequently, it's exactly the opposite. Cookie cutter and unimaginative. It's especially true when it comes to seasonal decorating. The really high-end designers are generally true artists, seeing beauty that others overlook. Antiques, thrifted and vintage items, things from nature, those are their sources of inspiration. And I like to follow their lead. Where I'm going to start my fall decorating in the living room is with this china cabinet that probably from the 1940s, I'd guess, belonged to my grandmother. And I always keep these two little lights on top. They belong to my grandmother also. And she obviously didn't keep them up here, but that's where I keep them because this is, in case you didn't notice it, this is kind of a dark spot. And the cabinet itself is kind of dark. It's right by the front door. but I also keep that picture up there. That's something that I just do all the time. And the first problem I had, and I've mentioned this before in a video, was how dark this is. And I thought about doing like little battery operated puck lights, but I didn't want to be replacing the batteries. And I also don't like the little spot that a puck light is. So I decided I wanted some strip lighting, like under counter strip lighting. They're actually plugged in right here on a surge protector, so I can turn them off and on by just tripping the little switch. This particular packet that I got came with 8 little strips that are about, I'd say about 18 inches long. And I drilled a hole down low, and this is the little connector. They come with connectors, and they all just kind of slip together. But you can see these are connected and go down here and up to the next one. The next 2 go across. It's a very thin little piece of connector. Goes here and here. And you can see how it zigzags across. And these little connectors are each about 3 or 4 inches long, I guess. And I guess it takes 1, 2, 3 connectors to go from one level to the next. And I have just centered it, so we're just a few inches short from doing a complete strip, but I thought this would actually handle it. And I have been very pleased, and because it's hardwired, I don't have to worry about batteries because it's on a little switch there. I can easily turn it off and on, and it operates the switches on top. I love decorating inside the china cabinet that has the glass on it because I don't have to worry about dusting as much. It really keeps it from being dusty. Now, my thought was that I wanted to use those Flaxman dinner plates that had belonged to my grandmother. I know from experience that the shelf, the only shelf that can hold a dinner plate, is the top shelf. The next 2 shelves down have much less height, and the shelf at the bottom does not have a little plate rail, so the dishes fall over. I have to prop anything up. And I want them to be safe, so I've put 4 dinner plates across the top. And I have a lot of dinner plates, but I don't have much else. I only have 2 salad and dessert size, and both of them actually have pretty serious cracks in them. So they are certainly not usable, but they're big enough to at least show. What has survived in pretty good shape over the years are the little bouillons. They come with a saucer, and they look kind of like an oversized teacup with 2 handles on them, and you're supposed to put your bouillon in there and then carefully drink your bouillon and set it back down in the saucer, very much like an oversized teacup. And I actually have more of these. I only have 5 saucers, and I think I have 5 bowls. But somehow using the 2 of them seemed just about right. I only have 1 of the bread and butter size, and so I'm thinking that kind of works right there. So I think that is how I'm going to do the dishes. I actually have this saucer. It belonged to my great grandmother on my paternal grandfather's side. I have 3 items that came from her. She was my North Carolina grandma, and it is some Limoges. I've never met her, but it is French, and I thought the colors were pretty with it, and I thought I would put that on the shelf too. Now, I need something to anchor that top shelf. So, it's a serving dish that belonged, I think it was my maternal great-grandmother bought this, I think for my mother when She and her sister and her cousin were little girls. They were gifted, I'm sure they thought this was kind of crazy, a silver serving dish because my great-grandmother thought they must have those or they just couldn't have a household. So that provides a little heft to it. Now, I don't know if you can see that or not, but if you're looking very carefully, behind those two center dinner plates, I have put just some chargers. I found these chargers at the Goodwill for $1.99 a piece. You can find chargers everywhere. They come in plastic. These two happen to be metal chargers, but I like the way the light reflects off of the curve and it makes them look almost beaded or something and gives a little glow to the dishes themselves. But what about that big bottom shelf? I'm out of dishes that match this, and I don't want to throw in a lot of more complicated things, but I'm thinking the candy carriage might be an interesting addition to that bottom shelf. Now, I usually keep it in my corner cabinet, but you know, the way to quit seeing something is to keep it in the same place over and over again, and the way to re-see something is to move it around. So by moving this, I'm hoping that I'll see it again. And by being down low, when my grandchildren come, the short ones, they'll be able to have a closer look at it. But it'll be behind glass, so hopefully they don't get into it. But that piece is probably well over 100 years old, close to 120 years old, and it was under the Christmas tree when my grandmother was a little girl. But I'm going to need to take it out in order to put something else on the shelf. I absolutely love books, and I have more books than I have bookshelves. So of necessity, my china cabinet always has to have books in it just so I can survive. Most of the books are family books. One of them actually came from a library sale. I think only one of them was new to me. But my most recent edition is these two books, Volume 1 and 2, Colton's Life and Time of Henry Clay. Now, what's so interesting about these books is they were donated by the Washington Cathedral Library. They were donated by someone, and then the library purged them. These ended up at the Junior League sale that they had, and I picked them up for a couple of dollars, which is more than I normally spend for a used book. However, and there's a little bit of mold on them. These books the date on them is 1846. And I think they were in someone's library. And I think the family, when the man died, they cleaned out the house and donated them. And then I guess somebody had access to that and cleaned them out. So I am quite excited about those wonderful old books. If you know anything about American history, it was a very prominent name in the 1830s and 1840s. Now, I am not just a book collector. I'm a book reader. So when I organize books, I don't organize them by what color they are or any other, or what they look like. I organize books by what subjects they are. On the left here, those are all biographies. The books on the right are histories, because I like to be able to remember where things are so I can pick up books and reference them. And I think the candy carriage fits that space quite nicely, and the colors from the books, the reds and the greens from the books, pick up the colors in the candy carriage. So that works for me. Now I'm going to need some more books because I've still got a stack of books that I need to take care of. The books that I just added are all poetry books that came from my great-grandfather, and I absolutely love the fronts of some of these books. I mean, they don't make books that look like that anymore. So Scott's poems and Pope. In the 1800s and, before the days of electronic entertainment, people sat around and read poetry, and my great-grandfather loved to read poetry. So I like the books on the left or looking up so that you can actually see the books. So I'll give you a little view here. There's the front of the book, and there you can see the top of the book. So they get pride of place because I love the way those books look. On the top, things are still looking a little sparse, so I'm going to add some things to make things look a little better. Now do notice the two cords on the left shelves 1 and 3, what I've put in has pretty much obscured the cording here, and there's a cord back there that you really can't see, which is good. Now there's still one over here. You can almost not see it, but there's a cord on shelf 2 that I need to cover up. So I don't want those cords showing, and it needs to be a little prettier. So let's see what I can come up with. Now I've got some little figurines that I think look very fallish. They've, with the harvest, and these are good to put away from little hands when people come to visit. And they were my grandmother's. Not what I would have chosen myself, but I've learned to love them after looking at them. So I think they add a little dimension. We had a pretty open shelf there. That helped. And on the other side, cut crystal, cream and sugar. These actually came from a thrift store. The price tag said $6.99. I thought I was going to get them both for $6.99, but I think they were each $6.99, which at the time I was like, that's too much. But the truth be told, they're very beautiful, and they were worth more than I paid for them for sure. I'll give you a little bit closer view later on, but they really catch the light beautifully in the cabinet. But I'm going to keep going for now. And I've still got that pretty big open spot on the second shelf to the right that needs something a little major. So I'm going to do this lovely lady. Again, this is another example of taking something that I have from another place, changing the location, and we see it anew. Now she completely covers up that cord, and I feel like I'm starting to get the placement where it needs to be. The crystal kind of inspired me, so I'm going to take 2 of these and set them on that third shelf. That helped a little bit. Gave it a little interest. Oh, you know what happened? I had to move my saucers, my bowls, and I left one of them up high. So when I put the books in, they ended up high. And now, I don't like those crystal bowls there. It's just too many bowls. I'm gonna move them up a little bit higher. But I still need a little something. This one, I think the colors of this work really well with what I'm doing. And this is, you talk about inexpensive little junk. I think I bought this, I kid you not, at a Walmart in the 1990s for maybe 99 cents or something. But I thought it was a really pretty little bud vase. I like the peacock and I like the colors. Why Walmart would have carried it is a complete mystery to me. But I thought that would echo the colors in the china. It's just a tiny little thing there, but I thought it was pretty with the blue books. I normally don't like to have a bunch of things all over the shelves because it makes it difficult to dust. And I like to keep things dusted. But in an enclosed cabinet, I can get away with things I wouldn't normally do. So I'm going to add some greenery that I think will soften things a little bit. And I'm trying to use things that are seasonally appropriate. Now, these are magnolia leaves that I dried last year, and I will put a link in the description for how I dried these using glycerin that I got at the CVS. And you can buy glycerin in different places, but in my experience, the glycerin that is for, like making hand creams, that sort of thing, that's more effective than the food grade. Maybe it's more concentrated or something. Then I have a very seasonal sunflower and another little faux flower. I thought those would pick up the colors in the dishes. I bought this just a faux boxwood garland that I found for a couple of dollars at the Goodwill. I cut it up because I didn't want the garland. I just like the clusters. And these are some little seeded beads that I, again, found at the Goodwill. Here is another magnolia. This one I preserved using Mod Podge, and I painted the front of the leaf with Mod Podge, and I did not paint the back. So the back is still fuzzy, but this one is nice. I like the fact that it has the seed head, and this was inconsistent. Using this technique was a little inconsistent. Some of the leaves turned brown, some of them stayed this pretty green color, but this one actually turned out nice, so I thought it'd be nice. Kind of like that particular one, in that corner, it picks up the green in some of the poetry books. Now, I still need something on that top left shelf behind my Lady and the Man. And I happen to have a nice pine cone. Okay, I think that's looking a little better. Helps that to pop a little bit more. And I think my marble bust here, I think she could use a little. Okay, that's looking a little better. But I'm thinking my candy carriage could use a little something, and let's see what I can come up with. Okay, I'm not sure I'm happy about that. I may work on that a little bit more, but I added some boxwood and a little faux ivy. We'll see how that works out. Now, I need to address the top. Some books, I've put them on their side. That's actually a real ivy that I've been growing outside. Again, this spot is so dark, this is not permanent, this is just for you. And what I will do is I will rotate real plants in and out. There is a little plastic saucer underneath that. I don't like anything with water in it on my furniture. But we'll see about bringing some different live plants in and out for up there. But it still needs one more thing. I have a little Mackenzie Child frog with her famous courtly check, and I like that with the dishes because the dishes have a little check. So let's put Mr. Frog up there. So here it is from top to bottom, completely decorated with things that have a warm fall feel. Not a bunch of plastic pumpkins or signs that say welcome fall or whatever they say. I don't like that. But this is what fall looks like in my home. Well, I felt like my candy carriage was just too dark, so I put some little votives in there. Now, these, unfortunately, I will have to turn on by hand. There's no remote. They're just simple switch on the bottom, but I think that helps the carriage to show a little better. Maybe if I find a third one, I might add that to it too. Well, I'm pleased with how that turned out. Rather than torture you and make you watch me decorate something else, I think it's pretty obvious what I have put on here in this little corner shelf. I love this little corner shelf because I like having the furniture at an angle and it perfectly fits back in here. And I have decorated this with a bird theme. Starting on the bottom shelf, my most special thing is the little watercolor my sister did for me, the little chickadee, and my little chickadee from the craft store is on the left. I probably paid $1 for it. And he does have a broken beak because I do allow my grandchildren to play with it. And I also have some antique books. I very much enjoy the Bird Life book that has colored colored prints inside the book. And then the other books on trees and southern trees were my great aunts. And then a little random ginger jar on the right just to fill up that space. And then on the middle shelf, the real eye-catching piece here is this hand-painted plate that I mentioned earlier. I probably paid $2 or $3 for it at the most. And I have not used it up until now, but it's a perfect fall piece with the waterfowl there, kind of echoing the rock with the little chubby bird on it that was a gift from our family friends, the Burgers. And we have the little hummingbird contrasting with his gilt frame, and that is a piece of paper art from my daughter and an Italian, hand-painted Italian vase with some faux greenery in it. And on the top shelf, the main thing there, of course, is the copper mule, the little copper mug with some dried magnolias and a dried hydrangea, and those were from last year. These things, if you put them away carefully, they will last for multiple years. And in front of that is a mirror, an inexpensive mirror from the thrift store that I free-handed the black and white checks on it, and then the little Mackenzie Child owls from the thrift store, and the little cardinal again from a thrift store. So an entire thrifted shelf. And looking around the room here, this particular cabinet came from a garage sale that my sister-in-law went to, and she gave it to me. And when she got tired of it, and I painted it, and I have enjoyed it for a number of years. Now, we don't happen to have a fireplace in our home, so we treat the mantle kind of like the fireplace, but the picture and the map and the piano music stay there all the time. And on the left-hand side, I change what's there based on the season. So for now, I have a very heavy brass urn that has, again, more dried mahogany in it, and I have some faux berries in it, but when the grass seeds, those tall plume-like grass seeds, start to bloom, I'll probably add a few of those to give it a little height and a little light interest. And I always use brass candlesticks in this time of the year because they're so warm. And the two brass candlesticks were family pieces. And the black one actually came from a thrift store. And the plate behind there, that is a hand-painted plate made in occupied Japan. So it's easy to date the plate. It's over 70 years old because I think the occupation ended in the early 1950s. And one of the ways to keep things looking tidy is to keep them on a tray. And I love this antique tray that kind of keeps everything together, including my funny little rock with some crystals in it that I like to look. And as I look around the room at my fall decor, there's certain things that just say fall to me. One of them is dried florals and, you know, the migration of birds. That's very fall to me. And, you know, even the dishes that we enjoy meals with our family that create so many good memories with the warm colors of fall. And I am so glad that you joined us here today, and I'd love to hear what your fall traditions are and how you decorate for fall. I mean, is it about pumpkins and signs that say welcome fall in your house, or do you do some different things too? Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.